What was the first documented meeting of Geralt with a doppler? And how does this story with a little Dudu from the Witcher 3 game actually started? The first short story of the second Witcher book tells us this, and a little bit more of the events which took place in the city of Novigrad. The story opens with Geralt wandering through the streets of Novigrad, meeting Dandelion by a chance. Dandelion is rather busy catching all his things which his lover Vespula throws at him from the window, including his famous lute. Dandelion curses on her, and together with Geralt they continue to have something to drink and eat at a local inn. Since none of them have money, Dandelion finds his friend, or so he calls him, merchant deity Beverveld. He finds him in the hope that he pays for his lunch as during the previous days. They eat and talk, but in a few moments something strange happens. Door opens and the same exact looking man as Dainty Beverveld enters the inn. Dainty starts to shouting at him, curses him to be a thief. Geralt instantly recognizes he's a non-human named also Vexing, or so-called Doppler. He instantly jumps on him and ties his hands and body by a silver chain. The Doppler starts to de-transform into his normal form, slowly but surely, confirming that Geralt was right with his assessment. He reveals himself to be a Doppler, whose friends call him Dudu. They continue to argue with a true Dainty and the innkeeper who wants to call the guards. They insist he doesn't, because according to Dainty, the little scoundrel robbed him on the road to Novigrad, and rode with his company imitating Danny himself. Dainty without a single penny and a horse had to get to Novigrad by foot, and was living on herbs and mushrooms he picked up along the way. Meanwhile, the Doppler imitating him was living his life in Novigrad for days. He tells them the truth, that he sold all his horses and bought many commodities on a local market, including oil, dyes, wood. And Novigrad authority officers come to the inn looking for Dainty Beverveld. They enter the room confused about what's going on. Geralt lets the false Dainty to transfer back in order to not create havoc, because he's looking like a monster. In a moment of distraction, the false Dainty runs out of Geralt's hands, and being very agile, he runs between the city guards and out of the inn. The officer then speaks with the true Dainty, stating he has to pay over 1,500 crowns tax because he made a ridiculous profit in past 3 days. If he doesn't, he will go to prison. Geralt and Dandelion decide to help Dainty and search for the Doppler. Witcher's stance on the person is that he doesn't want to kill him since they do not harm any people. They are not monsters, but this one is causing havoc, so he decides to stick around. While searching for him, on one of the main squares of Novigrad, they are confronted by a minister of security, Chapel, who tells them they seized the innkeeper because he was telling lies about Doppler being in the town. Since the faith in Novigrad doesn't acknowledge these non-humans still live, Chapel also insists on Dandelion, Geralt and merchant Dainty to leave the town at the earliest possible moment, without telling anything about the Doppler, and nothing will happen to them. He also asks Geralt what would be the theoretical price for catching a Doppler. Witcher answers that it is an impossible task in a city of 30,000 people, the biggest city in the world, and he refuses any suggestion to do so. Dainty decides to visit Vivaldi's bank since he usually does business with him. The dwarf Vivaldi tells him everything about Dainty's business in the past 3 days. He explains that Dudu's worthless purchases were covered for legitimate ones that have resold for exorbitant prices due to his knowledge of recent political changes in Temeria and Povis. Due to Dudu's successes, Dainty has recovered his fortune and reputation with the taxes paid in full. One of Vivaldi's informants reveals where the famed dainty is located now, since he saw him put an order in one of the big commodity markets just moments ago. The trio of Geralt, Dandelion and Dainty haste to the market, and Geralt confronts the doppler. He draws the sword, but the doppler changes into fake Geralt, understanding his abilities but also his mindset. But he's too good-hearted to fight Geralt. He changes back, now into Dandelion, claiming that he knows that Geralt will not hurt him. That is true, the Witcher doesn't want to kill him, but suggests that he leaves the town. At last, Minister Chapel enters the market and confronts Geralt, revealing in the privacy that he's a doppler also himself, who took over Chapel role when he died a few months ago. Dainty, Dudu and Chapel agreed that Dudu can live in the city under the alias of Dainty's cousin, Dudu Biberwald, and work as his proxy in Novigrad. Dudu reveals that his random purchases will be used for more eternal altars, making another fortune. And this is the background of the story of Dudu Biberwald, the famous doppler from the Witcher 3 game. Thanks for watching. That's all for this time. Feel free to subscribe, since I'll see you again in a few days with another story about Geralt the Witcher.